And we are live. Make sure everything's sound is good. You guys can all hear me well. The microphone is not on screen, so I look professional, as professional as I get. Morning, all. Although for many of you it is afternoon and evening, and it's good to see you all. It's that time again. It's that time of the week to, if you haven't all week, definitely this is the time to remember who you are. Because that's what Satsang is about. It is simply the reminder of who you are. And remember, the reminder as to who you are is always coming from you, right? It's never coming from the guy in the front speaking, right? Whether that be in person or virtually. The insight never comes from there. Just the words. Just the words, nothing more. All the meaning, the power, the significance of the words, all comes from you. It's all a result of the effort you've put in. Shuffle some things around here. The sincerity, the earnestness you've invested in this kind of an inquiry. And it's the most profitable inquiry you can possibly make. Way better than stock investments or anything like that, because those are transient. This is an investment that pays off forever. So as you're kind of settling in now to the Satsang state of mind, really give yourself permission to have your whole heart here, to really tune into your deepest desire. And on the surface, we have all sorts of desires. You know, the world was created by desire, and the hope for some kind of a perpetual high or perpetual pleasure or perpetual safety, relief from the suffering that most of us labor under. And there's nothing in the world that can give you that. Nothing. I don't know why it takes us so long to become convinced of that. We try every which way, and then the next shiny object pops up and promises that great feeling of relief and of contentment, and this will be it. My ship will come in, everything will be just fine. It inevitably leads to pain and disappointment, frustration and disappointment. I had a question on one of my videos. I haven't answered it yet. Saying, you used to talk about self-manifestation and all that. You don't anymore. And what's up with that? And well, I've just, I started talking about that stuff after The Secret had come out. I'd done that kind of manifestation stuff, 30 years earlier, 40 years earlier, 30 years earlier. Right? It's not like it was new. It started the whole new thought movement, transcendentalists and that sort of thing back at the end of the 19th century and then into the 20th century. It's been around in India forever, the yogic city powers and that sort of thing. So that it took, the Western consciousness by such storm, it felt like it was appropriate to try to kind of grab it and redirect it in the direction that was spiritual, because, of course, the manifestation got completely absorbed into the materialistic ideal of the West. That it was about manifesting what I want, and what I want is what I should have, and the dream life, and having it all, and the like. And it's so pathological. It ends up being so self-absorbed that it was. I remember hearing Neil Donald Walsh, the guy who wrote Conversations with God, talking about the movie The Secret. And he said, yeah, it was good. He said, but there was not one mention of like helping anybody else, of ending poverty, of educating, of taking care of others. Not one mention of it. And he was kind of taken aback by that it was just so completely self-absorbed. As most of it, it's all about the gaining of material prosperity. And maybe many of you have had enough spiritual experience now to realize that's a dead end. It just leaves you empty. It leaves you dependent. It leaves you clinging. Because, if you manage to attain this quote unquote dream life, now there's this need to try to hold on to it. You cannot have desire without fear. They go hand in hand. No desire, no fear. And I won't go into great detail about desire and all of that right now, because this is not like a program of austerity, right? You have to renounce the world and all of that. It's simply understanding the nature of desire. And like every other function of human life and the body, it is related only to the body and human life, and not to you as the consciousness that inhabits it. So I don't know why I got off on that, but I did. Anyway, welcome everybody to Satsang. Maybe I can use this now to answer the guy's question, so I don't have to answer it by typing it in. So welcome everyone to Satsang, and I'm ready to get started with anything that anybody has on their heart that they might want to take a look at. And I want to thank you all for being with me during that little mini retreat I did for the Krishnamurti Center yesterday. It was really, just so delightful. I periodically like to do things just to help them out, to keep, I tend to get more people into the classes than they normally get, which really helps because the money's a donation to them and keeps the place open. And, I wanted to stay open, throughout the whole COVID thing. And so it was really delightful seeing many of you there. So hello, Roberto in Spain, and Rosario also in Spain. I think both Roberto and Rosario are in Madrid. I love Madrid. What a great city. What a great city. Hello, Sifu, and everyone from rainy west coast of Canada. It's raining here, too. I don't think the sun's out yet. No, it came out for a second, but it's raining here, too. The west coast of the U.S. We're not that far from each other. Ava in Poland. There's Bob. Hey, looking forward to hanging out with you. Looking forward to hanging with you, too. There's Daryl in Maryland. There's Mary. Hi, Mary. Hi, Daya, and good evening, GP, and everyone from England. Oh, my British contingency has shown. It's great. David and Lane. Hi, and everybody. Love and greetings from Southeast England. So lovely to have been able to chat with you yesterday. Oh, it was great. It was so good to see the two of you. Crispin, hi, GP. Hi, friends. When meditating, allowing more and more, I more and more experience a state of peace and quietness. The difficult situations remain difficult, though. Is meditating with means to an end the problem? Meditation has only one real purpose, and that is to bring you to the state of equanimity, where you simply observe everything as it is, which is what allowing is, right? When you're just allowing the feeling there. That's why I refer to it as allowing, because meditation's got a lot of ideas about it these days. So people think I'm supposed to stop my mind, or I'm supposed to see colors, or God, or something like that, or Buddha. And it's none of that. It's none of that. It's simply allowing everything to be as it is. It's a practice for allowing everything to be as it is. And when it's well practiced, it spills over into the rest of your life. It becomes kind of a regular thing. So meditating is meditating with means to an end the problem. The answer is yes. Yes, it is. But what I want to do is, rather than see, if I just say yes, it's meditating, don't have a means to an end, you'll end up fighting with yourself. Now, that feeling of wanting to get some kind of result from the meditation will become an enemy you think you have to get rid of now, right? which creates the very conflict we're trying to avoid. Just notice that everything that comes up is quite natural. Of course, we do things, we want to get results, right? We don't go into business to fail, you know. We don't go to university to fail, to flunk out, right? We go with these certain expectations in mind. And so it's completely okay. What you do is you notice them. You just notice this is the functioning of human life. This is the functioning of the human mind and the emotions, right? And they're okay just as they are. You don't have to try to get rid of. Just notice that, yeah, in the nervous system, there's this energy that really wants, that's resistant to what's happening and really wants something else to be happening. Now, if you really let both of those be there, the resistance and the desire, the edge will start to come off of it. And the beautiful thing about it is that what happens is that a real solution to whatever it is that whatever problem needs to be solved will eventually show up, but it'll come quite beautifully. It'll grow out of that sense of equanimity. It won't be the kind of thing where, you're just kind of laboring over it and suddenly, this is what I can do. It'll have a really natural, organic flavor to it. And so it isn't, you're trying to get rid of the sense of means to an end. You're just recognizing that that's part of the tendency. It's okay for it to be there, and you remain in this calm center without any, that has no preferences, that has no vested interest in the outcome. And you can feel that. The desire for a particular result is trying to bring you back into the personhood, right? Because if I now get attached to that desire, that fulfillment as desire, everything that contradicts it will become the enemy. And therein lies the inner conflict that creates the suffering, right? So accept everything that comes up, absolutely everything. There are no limits here. Nothing is off limits. Right? Everything is welcome in the heart, right? And so you say, okay, there it is. And you very consciously maintain this place right in the center of the peacemaker. You have no vested interest in the outcome, including whether or not that feeling goes away. Right? It's pure allowing. Pure allowing doesn't judge anything. Everything is just allowed to be what it is. And you could probably feel it. I sense that you're feeling it even as I'm talking. It's just a shift in the relationship so that meditation truly does become this pure loving presence. And it doesn't have any objective. That doesn't mean we don't have objectives in life. It means that we're establishing ourselves in a place that is pure unconditional love, that doesn't have a preference, doesn't play favorites, right? Doesn't take sides, is not a politician or a fundamentalist. It's just very much, it's the pure peacemaker. It's this light at the center. So does that help you, Crispin? That's a good one for everyone. I was testing out this new little piece of software that goes into my site for making programs, for actually putting classes onto my website. Because right now I have it on this other site, which is very expensive, and if I can actually move it over, it'd be great. And I set up a couple things there. I made up some titles, and a couple people actually signed up. I wasn't expecting that to happen. That made this thing out, introduction to meditation. So I may end up making a little introduction to meditation course just because people signed up for it. Oh yeah, it was free. I signed up for it, and there was nothing there. So I was getting these notices of people signing up. So maybe I'll make one just really how to approach meditation in the gentlest way. Although that is what my course Just Allow It is about. So beautiful. Let me know if that worked for you, Crispin. And I'm really glad you're experiencing that peace and quietness, because That, my friend, is your nature. That's the real you. This is important to grasp. It's not a state you get to. Peace and equanimity and that quietness is not a state that you are arriving at. Right? If that was the case, I'd have to ask them, well, then who are you? That peace and quietness is you. That is your being. That is what being is. Quiet, peaceful. Because it doesn't take sides. It is completely equanimous. It is pure love, pure acceptance, and pure wisdom. So it's not a fool. Rebecca. Hello, Rebecca. Hi, all. New here, G. Cool. I wanted to ask you, to what extent should I push myself to practice meditation? I believe that I need to do it, but it usually feels like a chore. What to do? Thank you. In my experience, and I'm kind of rebellious by nature, okay? But in my experience, I cannot sustain any practice that I don't actually fall in love with. I used to practice, at first my drums, and when I switched to piano, 8-10 hours a day. I was in that practice from just playing away. And then I go to ear training, and I go to music theory and music. I couldn't get enough of it. Was it a chore? God, no. It's all I ever wanted to do. I had some jobs I had to do. I'd go off to do a job, I'd come back. There was like a handful of us that were these really hardcore people. We're there at 7 in the morning, and at 10 at night, we were still there, right? Maybe have to leave, go to a job for a couple hours, come back. I had to go work at the library. I did a couple of things. But I loved it, right? So these days people say, oh, you need to meditate. Okay. No, you don't. No, you don't. Meditation, let me ask you this. If you're in love with somebody, do you have to force yourself to think about it? Oh, I need to think about him. No, you just do because your heart is just drawn to it. You're making me think I really do need to create an introduction to meditation course. So if you've tasted it for what it really is, you will not have to force yourself to go back there. You just go, oh, yeah. And all it is simply quietly observing yourself. If you can do that for 2 minutes, just stop for a second. Notice how your mind just kind of chugs along. It's always chattering about this or that. Emotions are there, sensations are there. And just notice that there's something that is aware of all of that. And that something that's aware of it doesn't really have, it isn't really minding. It's not really upset by what's happening. Sometimes upset happens, and that gets observed too. Meditation, when it's done correctly, is really simply observing yourself as you are. And there's nothing more interesting to any of us than ourselves. When it turns into some kind of practice that I have to do to be a better person, or nobody can maintain it. Nobody can do that. If it depends upon discipline, we're all screwed. Because at some point the discipline breaks down, right? Right? You just, God, I don't want to do it. And if you're forcing yourself to do it, it's like, I don't know if you've ever been at a job and you had to do something, you really didn't want to do it. It's not, it sucks, right? So no, you don't. I want you to, if you have to force yourself to do it, it's because you've never really been shown how to do it correctly. Because if you do, you won't have to force yourself anymore. It's like falling in love, right? You'll begin to be having a relationship with yourself. And who doesn't like them? Who doesn't want to have a better relationship with themselves? So beautiful, yeah. No, nothing has to be forced. Nothing. Self-inquiry. I don't tell anybody to do it. I invite people, try it. See if you like it. For me, it became spirituality became fascinating and there were times when I thought I really had to discipline myself. And there were times I did, but I was clear about it, right? It was like I could feel that something in me was resisting it. And so it wasn't me, I just didn't want to do it. I wasn't feeling forced to do it. There was an insight there that there was this conflict, that something didn't, there was something resistant. And then the resistance became my focus of meditation. I wanted to understand it. Not get rid of it, not to be a good meditator, but I now wanted to understand this inner conflict I had between something that was enjoyable and a resistance to doing it. And now that became the focus of attention. Equally interesting, isn't it? This is how our own inner world becomes interesting to us. It becomes someplace we want to visit. We want to learn about it. We want to come to understand ourselves. And when that happens, you're motivated. Nobody needs to force you to do anything, right? And this is about freedom. This is not about a bunch of rules about you got to do this, got to do that. Please no. Oh God, no. I rebelled against that when I was a kid, and I have not stopped rebelling against it. Thank you for that question, Rebecca, and welcome. So glad to have you here. Robbie in Romania, Ursula, Madeira Island. Hello, Ursula. Hello, Jay. Lisa, buenos dias from rainy East Coast. Oh, here too. Everybody's getting rained on today. David and Elaine. Been listening to an interesting discussion between Robert Salzman and Jim Newman on non-duality. It's clear how difficult language is to describe, which transcends description. At its very best, words are just pointers. The language used to describe the knowing of our true being is not the same as the knowing, and does not require words to define it or impart its reality. Thanks. Yes, it's for me, I find it better to use metaphors. Well, sometimes it's very precise pointers. Other times it's jokes, right? Telling a story or some kind of myth or anything to kind of point the attention back to it. There are some people that are very serious and precise about it, and that's not me, so I can't be that way. But it's impossible to put into language, right? I could tell you all day how great an orange tastes, but if I hand you an orange and you eat it, you go, this tastes great. Now we both know what the orange tastes like, but it can't be described. Everything of worth in our lives can't be described. Try to describe being in love. Good luck. Describe that song that you heard, right? You just have to hum the song, right? You can't describe it, right? It has to be experienced. You have to experience yourself directly. And that's what the pointers do. And they're not a pointer to, as much a pointer away to get you facing in the right direction, in the direction where you actually might see it. You're looking over here for the sunset or the sunrise, and it's coming up over here, right? Somebody says, no, turn around. It's over there. I go, where? No, that way. It's not there. Anywhere but there. Not to, this way. And if one is earnest enough, and something inside recognizes that there's something of value there, it'll just very naturally turn towards the light. Just like, it's fun to have this plant here, and I move it around and just watch how quickly the leaves turn back towards the light. It's really amazing. It's not that long, an hour or so, and boom, it's facing it. It's in a different direction. If I put it outside, it goes up. It's really beautiful to watch. Everything just kind of knows where the light is. Well, so do you. So do you. Thank you. Thank you, guys. It was so good to see you yesterday. Faith. Hello, my chic. Hello, my love. My spiritual tribe. I noticed because of the old religious belief that God is separated and we are sinful, I feel I can't accept the idea of being it, God consciousness. It's not you that can't accept it. You've already accepted it. I know. I've talked to you. You've already accepted. You know that it's true. Right? But, if we're going to be spiritually mature, we really do have to understand this mechanism of the mind, conditioning and how it works. These habits are deeply ingrained. We were taught, and you're Muslim, and I was raised a Christian, and the people who were raised Jew as a Jew, or all the Jewish are the same, all in the same boat. All the Abrahamic religions, God is the creator, and creation is separate, and so everything is between the relationship, and then the idea, literally, that the story of Adam and Eve was literally and historically true, and therefore we're all under the burden of sin. Our nature is sinful. This idea is pounded into us so consistently and with such force. I mean, the threat of eternal torture, right? That's a pretty powerful motivation to glom onto some kind of a life raft to in hopes that won't happen to you. And that sinks deep into our nervous system. I mean, it gets programmed to assume that's the truth and then do whatever it needs to do to avoid the consequences, or to try to get away with stuff because you really can't suppress human nature, and then try to get out of being punished for it, which is what happens too. That was kind of more my story until I rejected it out of hand. So it's not you that can't accept the idea of being I. You are the I. Are you not the I? But your mind does not want to accept that sense I am that permeates, is closer to you than your breath. Matter of fact, the sense I am that's aware even of your breathing is the I am. That is the I am. That religious tradition cannot accept that, because now it's not creator and creation. It is simply one in beingness. So it's not you. This is what happens: is our insight, what we see directly for ourselves, runs into our internal conditioning and programming, right? And so now we're faced with this inner conflict between what we see to be true and the energy of the beliefs that are active in the nervous system. This is where, in just enormous compassion, enormous patience, enormous kindness to yourself, enormous kindness towards all of those religious beliefs and ideas. Take care of yourself, right? Take good care of yourself. Take care of your body. Feed it well, right? Exercise it. The kinder you are to yourself, the less inner conflict there is. And that creates the inner environment of safety in which the nervous system can begin to drop these beliefs away, because it simply doesn't need them. When you become the benevolent I am, right, it will respond. It will recognize the true God, the God that is love, not the God that is bombast. And it will drop all of the false ideas and completely reorganize itself around the true ideas. So it's all about just maintaining. Don't fight with it. You cannot win when you fight the conditioning. Right? You create an environment that is so loving that the nervous system itself senses that it is now in a safe environment, which is a direct contradiction to the environment created by that horrendous, evil, and self-violent theology. And it will eventually just completely crumble away, and it won't have it. Every now and then it might pop up, right? But the overall authority and impact will simply be gone. So beautiful. Thank you, Faith. Dorte, hello G, hello Dorte in Denmark. Ravi, do you have some advice in lessening the perceived effort and the aversion to it and the hard work required for an endeavor? Or should it be more about finding an activity that is enjoyable? Thank you. Well, yeah, if you can, by all means, by all means, if you can find something that's enjoyable, one should spend their life doing things that they enjoy doing. That would be a smart thing, but we can't always do that, right? So what that means is we have to come to terms with what is it in us that is resisting this moment, right? Forget about the thing itself that has to be done. Some things are going to be more enjoyable than others, right? You know, doing your taxes is never enjoyable. I guess there's some accountants that get off on that kind of stuff. They love the numbers, and maybe they do. But for real people, normal people, that's not the case. There's many things we have to do that we don't really want to do, right? Take out the garbage, mop the floor, do the dishes. Well, I like doing the dishes, but a lot of people don't like doing the dishes, right? Just a million little things. If that becomes an opportunity for us to kind of dive more deeply into ourselves and look at our own resistance to just the normal functioning of life, it becomes a wonderful opportunity for increased self-awareness, doesn't it? It becomes a way to know yourself. Right? So why is it hard? Why is there an aversion? That becomes an interesting question. Right? Why? And of course, and oftentimes our aversion and our resistance to the endeavor it makes it harder than the endeavor actually is. Sometimes you do it, it's over. It's like, oh, that wasn't hard, right? But the mental state and emotional state we get in about it because of our aversion to it. So this is not like, you have to love doing everything. But, when pleasure comes, enjoy the pleasure. When pain comes, accept the pain, because neither is permanent. They will both come and go. And then you use it as, like anything else, as an opportunity for self-exploration. Because remember, the object is to realize the happiness that is permanent, that never goes away. And that's a contentment. Right? It's not an emotional happiness, the kind we get when we're doing the things we like, which then goes away when we have to do the things we don't like. This is just kind of an underlying stillness or quiet. And just practice allowing those feelings and become curious about them. And of course, there's nothing wrong with, if there's something you don't want to do and you can find somebody else who can do it for you, or you can get out of doing it, by all means, do it. But obviously, many times in life we can't. And in which case, then it becomes, all right, so now I have to set aside my aversion, right? Which is simply the ego saying, I don't like this, I don't want to do this. It shouldn't be this way. It should be easy, right? Now, if that feeling and set of thoughts simply never occurred to you, would there be an aversion? Would it be any big deal? Would you even think of something as being enjoyable or unenjoyable? Right? Isn't that thinking? Isn't that a thought that turns it into that? As Shakespeare said, there's nothing either good nor bad, but thinking makes it so. So there isn't anything enjoyable or unenjoyable except what we think. When I think it is, I've created an inner schism, an inner conflict, where there isn't one really. So really look carefully at all of this stuff. And that doesn't mean you're going to love everything you do. Taxes are still going to suck. That's why I have somebody else do them. I haven't done taxes in 20 years, right? Somebody else does them. Somebody else does it for me. And I trust them. So, yeah, I'll leave it at that. How's that, Robbie? Elaine. Hello, Eileen. Eileen. Hello, GP and all listening. Much love from the Netherlands. Much love to you. Juliana. Oh, jumped ahead on me. LOG, my family doesn't talk about the bad and dark things that happen and even denies them. What can I do? Nothing. Right? And I don't mean to sound flippant about it, right? But you just let go of the idea that somehow people should be different than they are. They're not, right? If they don't want to talk about that, then there are people that you can talk to it about. And if not, just keep it to yourself. And the bad and dark things that happened, are you talking about within the family? Are you talking about in the world at large? If it's in the family, the kind of things that, the kinds of abuses, the things that had lasting impact on us, often the people who did those things they don't really realize they've done. They're completely in the dark, completely ignorant. And so it's a mistake for people to believe that somehow they have to confront, the perpetrator who hurt them in some way. You don't need to do that, and for the most part, even if you did, you wouldn't get a very satisfying. Very rarely is somebody go, you're absolutely right, I did that, and I am so sorry for that. I don't know what came over me. You're not going to hear that, right? No, I never did that. Are you kidding? You're nuts. You're making all that up. That's what they're gonna do. If it's in the world in general, people are afraid of what's going on in the world. They want to hide. They want to bury their heads in the sand, right? They don't want to acknowledge some of the things that are going on, because it's very painful to admit things are not the way we thought they should be, or they're not the way we thought they were. Right? So the real solution is, how do you come to terms with the dark things that have happened to you personally, or what might be going on around you? How do you see those things? How do you come into a relationship with them where they cease to cause you suffering? And only you can do that. All the people in the world you would talk to who can recognize it, and the best they can do is give you some validation and acknowledgement that these things really did happen. This is very important for people who've gone through some severe child abuse. A lot of times they had to deny that the events even took place. And so having somebody that can confirm that it really did, that they weren't making this stuff up, and the impact is there for a real reason, helps kind of pull away the layers inside that are just trying to keep the trauma at bay, which allows now that traumatic energy to eventually be released. But beyond that, somebody as an enlightened witness to something that might have happened, it becomes you, because this is now your process, and you can become your own enlightened witness. If there's some kind of, habitual pattern or self-sabotage or something going on that's consistent, and you've noticed that it's consistent, the nervous system never does anything without a reason. Something put it into that state. Some real event put it into that state. The good news is you don't have to know what that event is. We don't have to go on a witch hunt. We don't have to go, dredging up all the junk. Right? Something did happen. You can now acknowledge your nervous system for keeping you safe in the midst of it, and that it is continuing to keep you safe and trying to keep you safe. And just little by little invite it into the light, where it doesn't have to keep you safe in the same way. It can stop hiding these things from you. It can stop burying this energy. You can begin to recognize that you are safe, and therefore drop a lot of the defensive patterns that had been there from the incidents that had taken place in the past, and ultimately get reconnected to the truth of you, to your soul, which is what all of the traumatic material and all of the all of the safety mechanisms of the nervous system are attempting to do. They're attempting to protect the most innocent part of you. And in winning over the whole system's confidence, what it does is it releases the real you, which had to go underground because it wasn't welcome in the environment when you were little. And that's how it works. So I hope I answered your question, Juliana. I tried to grab all the sides I could of it, so I'm sure you'll tell me if I did or not. Martin, is it possible to get younger with meditation practice? Well, old age and youth are a concept anyway, right? If you're trying to, if you're 50 trying to have a 25-year-old body, I'd say good luck. And if you figure that out, let me know. I'll give it a try myself. But is there a youthful vitality? Is there still curiosity? Are things still interesting? If you're, old age for me is the thought process has become calcified. I become petrified into positions. And somebody can get petrified in a position at 25. I know people I've met in their 20s and 30s that are older than me, right? Because parts of them have just kind of frozen up, right? So meditation will free up all of the energy. Can you stop the transformation of the body? Absolutely not. Would you want to? No. It can stay functional all the way until the time that it drops over, but immortality is not a perpetual physical condition. It's not the idea that somehow we're going to be able to make the body last for 1,000 years. Oh, good God, why? But it's a fear that this is it. When this body ends, I end. It's just I am a body. You're not the body, right? So. And you, not being the body, are neither young nor old. You were never born and you'll never die. You're timeless. The terms old and young don't apply to you. So when we are identified with consciousness, that is the eternal youth and eternal wisdom at the same time. It is the beauty and energy of youth, and it is the sage-like wisdom of the ancients. All in one, because consciousness is not bound by a body. The body will run through its cycles, just like everything does, right? It'll have its beginning, it'll have its middle, and have its end. And because I'm not the body, fine, who cares? What happens to this body? It doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. The body doesn't care. The plant, eventually goes to seed and dies. It doesn't care, right? Because it doesn't see itself as an individual thing. It's all part of this. Where's the energy of this body going to go? Maybe into a plant, maybe into droplets of water. The water in here will end up, watering a field or a plant or, some kids in a sprinkler. What it does when I'm done with it is completely... I have no interest in. Right? It is just, the energy has congealed in this particular form and has sustained this form more or less for 69 years so far. And at some point it'll stop, right? Because I'm done with that. I'm going to make another form. I got to reuse. I got to recycle all the goodies here. So you are neither young nor old. You are timeless. The body will tend to reflect the openness, the magnanimity, the equanimity, the peace, the compassion of the spirit that is animating it, and therefore it will appear to have a youthful, almost timeless look about it. Even though the skin ages, the body changes, and all of that, it won't matter. It simply won't matter. This form is just as capable of expressing who I am as it was when I was 30. In some ways better, actually. So hopefully that covers it for you, Martin. Hello, Jonas. Hearts to you too. Justine, hi everyone. Is it possible to open the heart and solar plexus chakra? And how? Sure. Of course. Everything's possible. I do actually have a course. I've taught it live. It's a home study course now on the chakras. And the way I teach the chakras is I teach them mythologically. I teach them as archetypes. So while somebody see, people think of the chakras as this energy in the body, right? But then I ask, well, what's the body then? What is that made of? The fact is that the first chakra is a mythological representation of everything physical. It is your body. The first chakra is the body. It's this. It's this. Everything physical is the vibration of the infinite light at a particular frequency that makes a particular manifestation take place. The purity of all the light, the chakras, is it red, yellow, orange? I don't remember. I forgot. Roy, red, orange, yellow, Roy Begain or something like that. Anyway, the same colors as the rainbow, right? But light in its purest form cannot be seen. It's completely invisible. So it has to be broken into parts for anything to become visible or manifest. So if you think of the chakras as different aspects of one unified invisible thing, they take on a completely different character. One aspect is the manifest world. The third chakra represents the sense of identity. It is, I call it the storyteller. Right? And so if the third chakra is closed, what it really means is that I am clinging to a sense of identity that I have really outgrown, that things that appear to be threatening me in the environment are actually a threat to my ego. Yeah, solar plexus, third chakra, ego. It is not who you really are. You are the invisible light. I sometimes call it the light at the center, right? That is emanating all of these. The heart chakra, or the fourth chakra, represents the peacemaker. You heard me talking about that earlier with someone about getting into that space it was Crispin, right? Yeah, of total equanimity. It is our capacity for total altruism, to give without expecting anything in return. Total compassion, total love. And in the traditional model of the chakras, it's the crossover point. It's what represents the transition between what is called the lower chakras, which represent the animal instinctive nature. Protect myself in safety, which is the first chakra of the tribe. Desire, pleasure, reproduction, just pleasures of the senses, which is I call it the nymph, the second chakra. Identity, which is the third chakra. And, traditionally, the chakras were shown with a line going up the center with two snakes coiled around it. And the snakes in that culture represent immortality. They shed their skin. And so it represents the shedding of the instinctual and the purely animal, and the birth at the crossover point of the heart into spiritual life. This also represents the cross, the center of the cross, which is the crossover between the heaven and earth, past and future. So these are beautiful symbols for that. And so as a metaphorical or mythological representation, it points you towards something. And when I teach inner reconciliation and other ways of helping people to kind of become curious or figure out exactly where somebody is stuck, I'll oftentimes ask you, where are you feeling that in your body? After I get them into a place where they are feeling their body. And not always, but oftentimes, if they're feeling some kind of tension or something in here, it feels stuck, there's some kind of clinging to a sense of identity. And that sense of identity feels threatened by the environment. The ego can feel threatened as if it was a real thing, just the way the body is. But the threat to the body and the threat to the ego are completely different. Right? The threats to the ego are almost never a real threat to your physical life. Right? And then the crossover point is the heart. And so if you recognize that it is an aspect of yourself and begin to just kind of isolate it, get in touch with your pure capacity for altruistic love, to love without wanting anything in return. And you'll notice how your love is mixed up. Some of the love we feel, I want something back. Some of it's just pure lust, right? Some of it's a desire for safety. And you can see what that love means in different aspects, all of which are necessary for human life, by the way. There aren't really any that are lower and higher. They just represent the unconscious is below the heart, and the emergence into consciousness is above it. And so that's how you open it, right? You don't need to put on special glasses or wear special colored underwear or anything like that. It is to honor what everything is, and then to see them as isolated. Right? The function of the first chakra is safety. Period. End of story. That's all it does. It wants to maintain this form. So it's not interested in happiness. It's not interested in love. It's not interested in fun. It's not interested in prosperity. It's only interested in survival. And when you realize that that's what that energy is, and you won't expect it to be anything else. Okay, I get it. So if I'm really feeling threatened, right, that's where you're going to feel it, right? And if it believes there are threats where there aren't any really, that's where it needs to be loved into the place where it can see clearly, oh, I'm not in danger. Okay, everything's good. And it just goes back to doing its thing. So yes, it's very possible to open them up when you realize that's their nature. Right? Their nature is naturally open. They are naturally inwardly congruent. What happens is that we, in our ignorance, let's say I want something, right? I want to get something for fun, for pleasure, whatever it is, right? That's the nymph. That's the second chakra. Just that desire, right? And it has no interest in safety. It doesn't care, It's Pan. It's the wood nymphs, right? It's Bacchus, right? It doesn't care about. It's just I want it. It's the dog. If I can get it, it's mine, right? It just takes it, the shiny object, right? Simultaneously, there's this other energy that only cares about safety. It doesn't care about any shiny objects, right? Now, if I want to get the shiny object and I'm feeling a resistance to it, I say, I got to get rid of the resistance. What I've done is I've now created an inner war. Two aspects of me, I can't get rid of either one of them. I'm favoring this one, and I'm trying to get rid of this one. How well is that going to work? Right? So what do? You withdraw into the heart, into the place of the peacemaker. You recognize the desire is there. Of course it's there. It's always going to be there. And the need for safety is there. It's always going to be there. And then I go, okay, guys, you work it out. I'll just sit here, completely indifferent to the results. It's up to you. If I can have it and it's safe, great. If I can't, because it's not safe, that's fine too. I totally accept it. Now I'm in the heart space, right? I'm not engaged in the scuffle. And can you feel what that does? Right? All of a sudden, it's like this energy of what we call the chakras, which is naturally cooperative and harmonious, but has gotten out of whack because we've glommed onto one and tried to deny another. When we withdraw from that position, back into the place of the heart, their natural tendency to reconcile and harmonize just takes over. It's the Tao. It just starts to flow. That's why I call it inner reconciliation. So there's my take on the chakras in a little nutshell. Thank you, Justine. I hope that was insightful for you. I do teach the chakras different than anybody else except for Joseph Campbell. I stole a lot of good ideas from him. Hello, Sue McIntosh in South Africa. Hey, GP, I'm watching you on my big TV rather than my iPad. It's like you're in the room with me. So cool. Oh, that's great. My face is... I finally made it to the big screen. I love it. Ah, yes, indeed. It's red carpet time for me now. Suzanne. Hello, Suzanne. Hello. Is it good to do mantras or meditations that express thankfulness, gratefulness, and what happens when you do that? Oh my God, yes. Anything that expresses gratitude, and even when you don't know who you're expressing it to, or for what. Muji has a beautiful little video he does about just anything else. Get up in the morning, just go, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. Even if you have nothing to be grateful for, don't even know who you're thanking, just do it anyway. Thank you, thank you. All mantras, if they're done with a whole heart, remember mantras, everything can be done with some objective in mind, which means it's not a pure devotion, right? They become a means to an end, and your heart's not here, it's there. But if you do the mantra just out of the spirit of the mantra itself, it does take you to a place. It does have this effect. It does open the door to that deeper inquiry. I know some people in Zen who actually had the awakening chanting Heart Sutra or something like that. Right? And so it's the state of our heart that matters. And if you're saying that thank you to try to get something, you're not really saying it, right? But just, you know what, I just thank you, I'm alive, thank you. I don't even know what for, right? Yeah, my life sucks. Thank you. Very, very powerful. And what happens when you do that? Well, when it's with the heart takes over. Everything becomes better. You don't need things to change or become different in order to feel that gratitude. It becomes a real appreciation for just this right now. And you'll feel it. Try it. Go ahead. Yeah. And mantras are great too. Yeah, I still do it occasionally. Sometimes I'll wake up and my mind just buzzing. So I'll just go Om Mani Padme Hum, Om Mani Padme, Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. Right? Or sometimes all is impermanent, all is without a self. I will sometimes do that walking just to remind myself, right? Keep myself centered. Because the mind, it can run off in all sorts of places. So anyway, hope that answers it for you, Suzanne. Annette Rockstar, hey G, is it true that when you eat meat you also absorb the energy of the animal? Thank you. Probably. I don't want to put too much stock in that, because what happens is that people then become afraid of things. Oh my God, taking all these things in. I lobby for consciousness. When you are eating meat, Native Americans, other Aboriginal groups ate meat, right? It was a mainstay, right? Of the Plains Indians, the buffalo was one of the most important meals they had. But there was a recognition of, in order for them to live, something had to die. The buffalo dance, which created the story of the creation of the buffalo dance, is absolutely a beautiful myth. But it was to honor the buffaloes that danced, or the buffalo that had died to feed them. And in this dance, the dance was magic, and it would resurrect the buffalo, maybe in another life form, or maybe again. So it was a participation. It was a conscious, active participation in the cycle of life, recognizing that I'm living because something else is dying. Well, we don't have that in the West. Factory farming is just cruelty on an unprecedented scale. It's inhuman, right? And we have to become these cold, robotic characters in order to do that. I don't eat meat. That's one of the reasons I don't. It's just because it's just so horrific, right? What it does, of course, the effect that it has on the animals, and all the stuff they're pumped through, the hormones, the steroids, the antibiotics, fed food that they can't actually eat. I mean, when you really look at the entire thing, I can't see how anybody would eat it, right? And yes, the animals live in a condition of stress their entire life. They never, the stress hormones are running through their bodies the entire time. So that is going in, to the meat in some way. I think it's really unavoidable. Now, again, I'm not here to preach vegetarianism or veganism to anybody. Everybody has to make up their mind on their own for that. But we do have to take into account what it is we put in our bodies. When we when we eat something that is completely void of nutrition, like a McDonald's hamburger, right? Which has no nutritional value whatsoever. You might as well eat the wrapper it's in. It has more nutritional value than that. It's just a bunch of empty calories, and you feel it, right? It's artificially flavored, artificial everything, right? And you can feel it. Of course, I haven't had one of those in 30 years, but even before I stopped eating meat, I stopped eating processed food because I could see it wasn't food, right? And you can feel the difference when you actually get real food. Your body goes, oh, geez, this is great. So I would let that be, don't make it an intellectual thing, like, oh, I'm partaking of the spirit of that. Well, you are, right? But don't make it an intellectual thing. Just, check in with your own body. How does it feel for your body? For the most part, meat, when I did eat meat, long time ago, I was in Brazil, and I went to a McDonald's just to see what it was like. I think it was a McDonald's, and they're operated completely different, right? It was all Brazilian beef, and it was actually a beef burger. It was like, what the hell? I mean, it was nothing like a McDonald's. It was just the brand. It was just the brand name. It might even have been pirated. I mean, they oftentimes South America, they'll use the name and they don't have a franchise at all. It's pretty funny. But when I spent a lot of time in South America, I even ate less because the food was such better quality. My body simply didn't need it. So just check in with yourself about those kinds of things. Just kind of check in and see how your own body feels, right? And you'll feel it. You'll just sense it yourself. What your body's really smart. It knows where real food is, right? And it can only be tricked for so long. So I hope that answers it for you, Annette. Jay, I missed the email for the retreat. It's because I didn't send one out. I was I was doing this with the Krishnamurti Center, and Ralph and I decided we were just going to do it for the people at the Krishnamurti Center. I wasn't going to involve my list. So I never sent an email out. Well, as it turns out, many people who are on my list are on the Krishnamurti mailing list, and so I had a bunch of people from my list show up. So next time I do that, I will just send it out to my list. I really want to support them because it was a pure donation. It was just donate. There was a suggested donation of like $20 Canadian, which is about 16 US, and probably 12 euro or British pounds. so that I wouldn't be just kind of inundating, doing too many things with my list. But as it turns out, it did anyway. It did anyway. So I'll let everybody know next time that happens. Facebook user, Namaskaram Ji and everyone. Namaskaram to you. My mom suffers from dementia, but she denies it. Do you have any advice for me how to handle the situation? Dankeschön. Oh, Steffi. Oh, I'm glad. Now, because just as Facebook user, I love knowing who you are. Yeah. First off, don't try to force anybody into anything. You notice it, and that's all you can do. You notice it. You can do your best to make her comfortable. If she starts losing things, you keep an eye on her, right? It's a hard thing for somebody to admit to themselves that they're losing it, whether that be some kind of physical capability or mental capability. I'm not as fast as I used to be. I'm not as quick-witted as I used to be. You notice these things, right? But then I notice that I notice. And I realize that there's something there that is beyond that could see that, oh, my mind doesn't function as fast as it used to, which means there was something there the whole time that was greater than and beyond the mind, right? So now that's the way I see it. And that's the way you can see it too. Seeing this in your mother, she probably knows it, right? That it's happening and it scares her, right? Who wants to feel like they've completely lost control? But if she's in it, to a certain degree, they're not aware of it. And so they're not suffering, right? We tend to suffer more looking at it, right? Because we're still conscious of them as they were. And if they're not like that anymore, it's like you've lost somebody in your life, and yet they're still there. That's the suffering that somebody with someone with dementia experience, but the one who has the dementia isn't experiencing that. So the other thing is to use this as an opportunity to recognize the true nature of mind and the true nature of consciousness. That while the body, this is really simply the functioning of the body that is deteriorating, right? And when it deteriorates completely, we call it death, right? And give her good food, take care of her, recognize that who she really is can never be lost, can never decay, never lose its capacities, and that this is just a momentary blip on this horizon of life. Maybe an experience she needs to have, maybe an experience you need to have. Right? And then just really drop the resistance to it. Drop all your ideas about how it should be, and let yourself experience the genuine presence and compassion. And it'll take you to a different place, I guarantee it. So hopefully that helps you, Steph. Beautiful. You're wonderful. Alessandra, hello. So good to see you. Jacqueline, lots of love from the Netherlands. Good to see you. Lovely. Hello, everyone. I often think I am unworthy, and my partner also gives me the feeling to be wrong. What would help me? I suffer a lot. Thanks. Okay. At what point in your life did you become unworthy? Was it in the womb? Were you born unworthy? Were you 2? Were you 5? Were you 10? At what point did suddenly we become unworthy? What happens in our lives is that some events will take place. Usually they're traumatic enough, that it's an experience that you can't do much about. You're a little kid, you do something, You know, you get punished by your parents, you get diminished by your parents in some way. And because the child cannot doubt the ultimate godlike nature of the parents, it takes on itself the feeling, I'm wrong. This is the Adam and Eve story, right? God good, me bad. I'm ashamed. I hid myself, right? This is what happens to us emotionally as children. We become less than. This is the essential trauma that disconnects us from our soul. And as time goes on, the mind dutifully starts creating reasons why I'm not enough. And it makes stuff up, like I'm not worthy, I'm not lovable, I'm not enough, I'm not pretty enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not wealthy enough, I'm not educated enough. It's always something is missed. But this is the mind trying to compensate for a trauma that was an energetic assumption that was never true in the first place. It was never your flaw. It was simply your natural need to authentically express yourself running into the tribal laws that did not allow you to be you. And the way in which all of that energy gets suppressed is the mind starts creating reasons why you're not enough, and then your life becomes trying to compensate for this underlying assumption, I'm not enough. Right? So the thing is, the I'm not worthy, I am unworthy is just a thought. It's not true. Now, at the level of energetic, at the level of your nervous system, it assumes that it is true, and that's why it has a sting to it. That's why it has a feel about it. It feels as if it's true, but the reality is it isn't true. Right? It was an assumption that was drawn at a time when you had no other choice but to suppress your natural exuberance, your natural worthiness, right? Because your nature was not welcome in the environment. Right? Now, it's very likely that because this is the unconscious part of it, us, right? This is, I call it energetic assumptions. I don't even like the term unconscious mind. There's no such thing, actually. There's these energetic assumptions that are programmed into the nervous system, and it will tend to create environments which sustain that assumption. It doesn't want to step outside of that assumption, even though it would be better for you, because it's learned how to keep you safe with that assumption in place. And it doesn't know if that assumption changes, whether it can or not. So it just holds on to it. So it will attract partners who will tend to reinforce it, tell you you're wrong, maybe even have a condescending attitude at times, or just, oh, there she goes again, or something like that, which hurts, right, on the level of you that knows this, I want more than this, but is exactly in line with the energy underneath that is committed to keeping this in place. Now, how do you recover from that? And the recover comes from bringing to yourself such a sense of safety that the nervous system can drop the assumption. Right? When you become safe for yourself, recognize first consciously it's not actually true. It's an assumption that got programmed into the nervous system before you could think or discriminate. So the body is acting as if it's true. It's on autopilot, even though it isn't, right? And that over time, thoughts have accumulated to support the assumption, and none of them are true. And this is one of those places where I use EFT to kind of help the nervous system let go. You have to create an inner environment of safety. That's what inner reconciliation is all about. And I'm going to be doing a brand new program about it starting in about a month and a half, end of July, beginning of August. That will include some EFT as well. Basically, we're not reprogramming the system. This isn't NLP or hypnotherapy. It is creating an inner environment where the system itself recognizes that it is now safe and drops the assumptions all by itself. It's not a forced reprogramming for the outside. It reprograms itself from the inside. As I often say, that when water comes out of the mountain, it doesn't need a GPS to find the ocean. It knows where to go. You simply have to take the obstacles away. The nervous system will do the rest. These things can be stubborn, right? Because it's been in place for a very long time. And remember, your nervous system created it to keep you safe. So until it gets the clear message, it's safe, it's not going to let that position go. So, and when you try to do self-help on yourself and fix yourself, and I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, I'm worthy, at the level of the nervous system, at the energetic assumptions, it's not buying it. It's going to resist it even more. It feels like an intrusion because you're trying to force it into a different position, which is exactly what happened to it in the first place. So instead, you bring this unconditional love to it. You recognize this is the most remarkable adaptive thing in the universe that managed to keep you safe under very dire circumstances and is still doing so. But with the right amount of unconditional love and acceptance, we can invite it to begin to protect you in a different way, in a way that also provides you a greater sense of freedom and drops the idea that you're not worthy of love and companionship and a genuinely mutual, respectful relationship. So I hope that answers it for you, Facebook user. Beautiful. Beautiful. Thank you for bringing that to me. Let's see. Red Road. Hello, Sonia. IGP. I heard you say that if we don't take sides, what we feel, then we experience peace. What about when we are recovering from PTSD, always feeling not good? Will positive affirmations help? Well, positive affirmation will only help if there's an inner environment that can receive them, right? The problem with affirmations is that because of the energetic assumptions I was just talking about, they're rejected out of hand. They're just, this is nonsense, right? And in fact, studies have shown that if somebody has already a certain inner freedom and a sense of self-esteem, affirmations are very effective. But if they don't, they actually make it worse. because you're trying to affirm this, and underneath it's going, God, that's not me, that's not me, that's not me. And it gets even worse, right? So when I say don't take sides, PTSD, and I've worked with combat veterans with PTSD. I used EFT because it was used. Some guy who's shell-shocked, talking to him about non-duality is a waste of time. So I want to give him relief from his suffering. We'll talk about non-duality later, if ever. But I just wanted to give him some tools, some ways he could actually come to terms, and many did. Many did come through it on the other side. As a matter of fact, there's a very good video called Operation Emotional Freedom, and it was Gary Craig, the guy who created EFT. I think Carol Look. There was a bunch of people who are really good at EFT. They did a movie where they got combat veterans with severe PTSD. They brought them into a house for, a period of time, 3-4 days, and worked with them. I think that's what it was. Maybe they just went and worked with them in various places. And all of them recovered from the PTSD. Because what PTSD is the nervous system getting stuck in a position. It just assumes that it's going to be killed because it's, for extended periods of time, for some people, a couple of years, they did not know in the morning whether that day they were going to die. Woken up at 3 o'clock in the morning in the middle of the dark to go out on patrol, right? And sniper fire going on around it. Your nervous system gets into a position where it just does not want to drop out of its vigilance. It's one guy I worked with, that was what his experience was. And he only fell asleep, he could only fall asleep sitting in a chair wearing a uniform. He was a security guard. And when he got his uniform on and sat in the chair, he could fall asleep. He couldn't sleep in a bed anymore. That's how jazzed his nervous system it was. And so that's an extreme, but we've all suffered PTSD from our childhood. There's always been a certain kind of vigilance that has gotten created in the nervous system. So that's what it is. So using something like EFT, like I do with you, and what I mean by not take sides, is to drop your own inner fight with the negative feelings or the sense of vigilance and the like, because if you fight it, it gets more defensive, right? So we're trying to create an inner environment of safety and acceptance. And when you do, you'll find that you can say a positive affirmation. If you look at some of my videos, I do one on I am not safe, and then I do another one on I am safe. And I have another whole set of tapping videos and audios I did called Tap Formations. You don't do them at first, but you can actually begin to use tapping and affirm positive things about yourself. But that's only after, right? If you're doing it to try to force to force it into that positive frame of mind, you'll fail. But you can, and you just notice it, that after you've done some work with EFT, and there's this, I'll often say to somebody, okay, now hold that thought again. Does it feel more or less true? I'm not enough. Try to think it. Is more or less true. Some people say, I can't even think it anymore. Other people say, it doesn't feel quite as true. There's an opening. There's more of a spaciousness. At that point, you could do something a little bit more affirming while you're tapping. But also being sensitive, you could say something and suddenly you'll feel a sense of resistance. Don't force the affirmation at that point. At that point, just kind of back off, pick up the resistance, and work with that instead until that has been kind of brought into this inner atmosphere of safety. I can't emphasize that enough. I just can't. It's the whole. It's the whole of everything I teach. It's the whole of inner reconciliation. It's the whole of non-duality, right? It is creating this space that is completely you. It's completely open, spacious, loving. It has no enemies. It has no problems. So, thank you, Sonia. Jay said, David Elaine, I learned the hard way through discussions with others. Whatever way we try to describe it. Oh, yeah, you were commenting something earlier. Nask, I can't pronounce your name. Burhan? Naksh. Hello. What are the mediums beyond senses to know? And what is knowing? Thank you. What are the mediums beyond the senses to know? Well, the senses have a limited range, obviously. They can't see all, that there is of light. Dogs hear way more than we do, right? So the senses are already within this narrow band. The instrumental extensions that science has created, which takes stuff that's outside of what we can see and represents it within the world we can see. So you'll see like waveforms on an oscilloscope, or you'll see infrared. You'll see magnetic pulses getting turned into sounds. Right? I've actually done a couple of compositions using the sounds of Saturn and the sounds of Neptune. It's kind of fun. So there's all sorts of things outside the realm of our perception. So the first thing we should recognize is that's the case. There could be other beings wandering around, and we're completely oblivious to them, and they're completely oblivious to us, because we're just operating in, we could be walking through each other. I mean, a radio signal, the solid, you can't see it, but all the solid wall, a solid concrete wall is invisible. It's like a window to a radio wave, goes right through it, right? Visible light doesn't, right? Which is why we see a wall. But radio waves do. They go right through it. So what's beyond? All sorts of things. There's all sorts of things, right? It's really actually impossible for us to even conceive, because they'd all have to be reduced down to our field of perception in order for them to be seen. Now, what is knowing? Well, that's different, right? Knowingness is simply your capacity to know. Now, let's say you took your senses and they expanded, right? There was a time, not that long ago, the last color we came to be able to see was blue. Looking at ancient writings, I mean, not ancient, the Bible, and other things thousands of years old, there's no mention of the word blue. All other colors, but not blue. And they would describe things that we now describe as blue in a different way. And they recognized that we simply didn't see it. That's been relatively recent that we've been able to see the color blue. It looked like something else. We were colorblind to it, right? And now we can. And all of us... Now, was there anything in consciousness, the knowingness itself, that restricted us from seeing the color blue? Or is it simply the mechanism didn't give it? So the knowingness doesn't have any limits on it, right? It's only confined by the perceptual equipment. But the knowingness itself, consciousness, isn't. If it can be perceived, it will be known. So the field of knowing is absolutely infinite. And so it can go beyond even the senses. It goes beyond time, and it goes beyond space. And this is not an abstraction. I'm talking about your knowingness, that which is hearing my words right now. It's that simple. It's that direct. It's that right here and right now. Oops. Sorry for the slurp. So, bring it home to you. The knowingness is consciousness, Sat Chidananda, being, consciousness, or bliss, or existence, knowingness, and contentment. They are the nature of the infinite existence, the formless, unmanifested existence. If something manifests, it is known to the unmanifest. What is manifest will always be a reduction. It will never be the whole thing. It can't be. Right? It is always going to be some kind of a perceivable form. And there'll always be something beyond that perceivable form. But that out of which the perceivable form arises, that to which it returns, and that which is aware of it, is not bound by anything. It is not a form. And that is you. That consciousness is what is hearing my words right this minute. It's not abstract. It's not out there somewhere. It's you. It's the you know, the one you're with every day. Thank you, Naksh. I hope I've said that correctly. Patricia, hello Patricia. So nice to see you again. I enjoyed yesterday's meeting very much. Love to you all, friends. Yay. Remy, hello Remy. Gee, sometimes I get a racing heart when I'm trying to do things that spark anxiety or fear in me. I started deep breathing into the feelings. Is that doing enough, or should I do more? That can be enough. Yeah, most importantly, don't make this an effort to get rid of the feelings. That creates the conflict. Okay, the feeling is here. I'm just going to breathe into it. I'm going to sink into this feeling. It's here. Okay, I'm not fighting it. I'm not trying to get rid of it. The breathing will help me center myself and keep me present with it, not run away from it. Right? Keep me present. Yep, anxiety is here. Okay. Ooh, it's very uncomfortable. Yep, sure is. Okay. Keep me present. Keep me present. Keep me present. And you can also do some tapping. I showed you how to do that too. Don't even have to say anything. You have to be real clever with your words. Just keep me present. Not going to run away. Keep me present. Does that do it for you, Remy? Very simple. Jacqueline, sometimes Advaita teachings feel so meaningless. How do I know the source is love? Sometimes it just feels like a program being played without any meaning. Well, that's because oftentimes a lot of Advaita teachers, it is. That's exactly what it is. It's very heady. It's very cold. There's no sense of the heart in it, right? You know, the term in Sanskrit for pure being is Sat Chit Ananda. Right? Three aspects of one thing. In you know, like anything in its wholeness, like pure white light, right? You can't see, it's invisible. You have to break it down into its piece parts. So pure being, in order for it to be understood, needs to be broken down into its piece parts. And it's in its being, you exist. Consciousness, you're aware of existing, and it is an ananda, feeling. Right? So, do you feel? Do you love? That's ananda. That's beingness. I can't imagine being without feeling. I can't. Life without feeling? What, it's just thought? Oh my God. How boring. Never tasting an orange? Never having a kiss? What? Heavens no. And that which just kind of de-emphasizes all of that, I don't regard as the true teaching, at least not the whole teaching. It's only part of the picture. The Advaita Vedanta is the inward path. You're very rigorously and precisely discarding everything that isn't you, because we've identified so much with so many things, right? Identified with the body and my gender, my religion and beliefs, my politics. I've been so wrapped up in these things that we're all obviously added on later. I'm just putting all of that aside until what's left? Just me. Pure existence. Just me. Now, just me doesn't have any inherited meaning. It doesn't have it doesn't serve any purpose than to be. It is complete and whole in and of itself. But at that point, and this is where most of the Advaita teachers stop, but the good ones don't. Turn around. This is the Bodhisattva path in Zen. The Arhat path stops here. That's the Vijnana, the lesser vehicle. The Mahayana now turns around. It seeks enlightenment for the sake of all beings, to end suffering. And that outward flow now of the discovery of who you are is what's known as Tantra, love, the embodiment of it in life, in the human life, in feeling. Touch your hand. That's Ananda. The experience of life in its totality, but without suffering, without overhead, without trying to get something from it, right? That's the struggle. When we don't know who we are, we're latching on to our desires, looking for happiness. Once you know who you are, and that happiness is your very nature, you now begin to express that happiness in life. And the human and the divine merge into one. This is the symbol of the cross, right? The two are one, and they mean of the heart. That's the symbol of the chakras, the rising from the instinctual to the spiritual. But it isn't an abandonment, right? I don't like the fact they call it the lower chakras. It simply represents a different kind of energy. In fact, this is the wholeness of life. This is the fullness of life. So you won't get that from me. And so it feels so meaningless. Well, the meaning now of something isn't artificial. It's not coming from the outside. Oh, this has meaning. Why does it have meaning? Because it does for me. That's enough. You know, the people I'm close to, they have to have meaning for everybody else in the world. You know, my sons, most people don't even know who they are. Right? For me, enormous amount of meaning. You know, my students, the people who show up every week, oh my God, full of meaning for me. Full of meaning for me. But there's no absolute meaning, right? It's all simply the love in this moment. And so the inward path of Vedanta becomes the outward path of Tantra, the embodiment, where the total liberation of the sense of self from any dependencies permeates and populates the entire energy system, and all of life becomes imbued with the divine. You become the living love. You become the sage. So, obviously, I don't teach Advaita that way. I teach it this way. And the best teachers I know, the only ones that I recommend, they do. This is it. It's not an abandonment of human life. It's a transcendence, but not in the sense that this goes away and it subsumes it. It loses its suffering, but not its flavor, not its taste. An orange still tastes great. Matter of fact, tastes better. Because you're not trying to get anything from it anymore. You don't need anything. It's all love. And you're receiving from love. You're giving love. Everything becomes pure love. Does that help you, Jacqueline? How do I know the source is love? Because you're drawn to love, aren't you? That's your nature. You can't help it. That's the premise. We're drawn to love. Everything is about love. That's how you know. Right? And you can feel it. When it's taught correctly, you can feel it. Right? Thank you, Jacqueline. Mary says, I love your answer about conditioning and being kind to ourselves. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Mary. Hi, Marty Hale. Hi to you. Ah, Martin, my dear friend. I think we are moving from the I to the necessity now of we. Your thoughts, please. Yes. Thank God. You might have heard my talking a little bit earlier question about at the beginning about the manifestation and how the whole law of attraction things made us so narcissistic. I, and no we in that at all. And that it's not just that. I mean, that just came from the overt materialism of the West that just got kind of, you might say, spiritualized with the law of attraction and the movie The Secret. You cannot separate I from we. How can you? It's kind of like, look at the trees behind me, right? Can you separate the tree from its leaves, right? Or the leaf from the stem from the branch from the trunk from the roots, the leaves from the sky, from the sun, from the carbon dioxide in the air that it breathes, from the earth beneath it, from the minerals in the ground, from the worms, the insects, all the things that are making that happen. We arbitrarily create a tree, and make an object. But really, step back and look. Can you really separate anything from anything? When we do, it's purely in the mind. It is purely a categorization of mind that does not apply to a reality any more than go look for it. You cannot find a boundary between any state or country. Go look. There aren't any. They are complete fabrications of the mind. There are no such things. There aren't two. If you're going to have an I, it's got to be the infinite I. Otherwise, you got a we, right? And it's actually both. I, we, Gaia, right? It's actually, the I is the we. There's no, because I can look at this, I can admire the beauty of a tree, and then I can take the entire thing into it. And guess what? I can't leave me out of that either, because the admiration of the tree is in me. And what would there be to admire if it wasn't there with me? And what would it be if I wasn't there to admire it? You cannot separate us. We are we. I is we. You can't define yourself terms of, just in terms of yourself. Don't surround yourself with yourself. You can't do it. I mean, how do you describe humanity without describing male, female, black, white, Asian? I mean, how do you do it? You can't. There's no such thing as humanity. It is a we-ness, right? All different aspects of an essential unity that is the one, which is beyond an I, right? Because when you are the one, you're beyond I and other. It's just, it's beyond we. It's beyond one and many. It's in the land of the transcendent. But the reality is, folks, is it is one being. The we and the I are one. There's only, I mean, just look and just watch. The next time you're walking in a park, look at a tree and just take it all in and see every little piece completely interacting with another. And let's not forget, the tree breathes in what we breathe out, and we breathe in what it breathes out. Right? It's kind of like, my lungs take in the oxygen. They put it in the blood, which goes out to the cells. Thank you very much. Here's my garbage, which is carbon dioxide, which goes back to the lungs, breathes it out, and then it's taken in by the tree, which does exactly the same in the opposite and brings it back. Okay, other than this imaginary line I have between, that sounds like one organism to me, right? I give oxygen to the cells. My lungs give it to the cells. They give me back carbon dioxide. I give the carbon dioxide to my other lungs, which has me back oxygen. I say, thank you very much. That's one being, right? That's an I we, right? Yes, I can look at it as we. I can look at it as we as the lungs and each of the cells that make up the lungs. That's a we, and it's an I, right? And then all the little piece parts, all the blood cells, and all the stuff, right? All of it is just this, just unfathomably gigantic, unfathomable oneness. A one that is simultaneously many. You cannot separate your good, your blessings, your awakening from anybody else's. You can't do it. Trying to do it has made the mess, and thinking we can is what made that disaster of the secret promoted, where it's just all about my dream, as if that could exist in a vacuum separate from everyone. Simply can't do it. Oh, hopefully you like that, Martin. It's so good to see you here, my friend. Dear friend. Merck. Hello, Merck. Hi, GP. Nice spontaneous meditation the other day. But I suppose when you don't feel that you're doing anything, everything is a spontaneous happening by default. Actually, it's true. Yep, everything is a spontaneous happening. Even a plan is a spontaneous happening, isn't it? There's a spontaneity there about, I think I'm going to take a trip to, Europe, and got to go buy an airplane ticket and make hotel reservations. It's a spontaneous act. Everything is a spontaneous act. Everything is a moment. Everything is a virgin birth. That's the way I like to look at it. Everything is a virgin birth. It comes out of nowhere. Well, it comes out of the nature of the creative power of consciousness itself. Consciousness is forever producing itself, revealing itself, manifesting itself in form. We call it the mind calls it spontaneity, right? It's actually life. J Deep. Namaste, G. I tend to think the first breakthrough on self-realization happens when one reaches the thoughtless state for the first time, or to say that the illusion of the ego mind drops for a moment. It doesn't, not necessarily the first. Sometimes somebody even getting a sense that it was somebody recognizes a a pattern they used to be doing, and suddenly something goes, wait a minute, this is just a pattern of thinking I keep thinking. That's a moment of realization. That's a moment of breakthrough. A gap has opened up between what I thought I was and just assumed I was and was going along with unconsciously, and suddenly I was standing in a different place, and I saw it differently. Suddenly it wasn't necessarily me. It was a habit. It was a pattern. It wasn't necessarily myself. That too is a breakthrough. What you're talking about is a very significant one, where for a moment, all of a sudden it's like, I'm not there anymore. And you're consciously aware of it. It happens a lot more often than we think, right? When you see a beautiful sunset or a laughing baby, or a flower catches your attention that wasn't there yesterday, and there's this suddenly that you just kind of go, ah, it just kind of stops you in your tracks. For a brief moment, you're not there. It's pure unity. You and what you are looking at are one. There's no ego there. Pretty quickly, though, the mind comes back and starts, oh, how beautiful, look at that, what is that, I love that plant, I've never seen that before, what kind is that, and then the discursive mind kicks in again. But in that moment, which happens to us more often than we realize, anytime you're thoroughly absorbed in something, even a movie, you have disappeared to a certain extent. But then there are those times, consciously, when we're in the meditative state and suddenly thought just stops for a second. And there's just being. And you're aware of it. It's a very profound moment. When that happens, it's highly unlikely that it will stay there. Thought will come back. Do not go chasing that moment. Do not go chasing after that moment, right? Get back to the thoughtless state, right? No, just continue watching. You're beginning to notice that you and thought are not the same. And whether thought is there or not, right? Whether the ego mind is there or not, you are still you. This is how you really separate yourself from it. And then now it doesn't matter whether the thought's there or not. You don't need the state of samadhi that way, right? Because you are permanently in the state of the awareness of. And these things will come and go. And of course, the more you are like that, in that, and recognize that is who I am, who I've always been, you are completely equanimous about whatever happens. Nothing bothers you anymore. And the tendencies of thought lose the energy that has sustained them, and they do begin to dissolve, so they don't bother you as much. There are periods of just quiet. Like right there. But then it happens to every one of us daily when we go into deep sleep. There's no sense of I as this person anymore. While real I as pure awareness witnesses the deep state, then why does that not lead to self-realization? Why the thoughtless state in deep sleep is not as powerful as the thoughtless state reached with effort? Because you're not after the thoughtless state. You're after identification with the awareness that is aware of the thoughts and the thoughtless state. Something is aware of both. Something says thought is here, thought is not here. Right? Now that doesn't happen in deep sleep. Thought is just not there. Right? There's not a conscious awareness of it. Self-realization is, I am this, whether thought is here or not. That which is aware of thought and that which is aware of the thoughtless state, that is who I am. It is beyond thought and thoughtlessness. It is beyond all opposites. It simply is the background of all of it. That's self-realization. Does that help? I just need to point you to that, because this is a common mistake in meditation, that people think the thoughtless state is it. And there are many yogis have sought to get to that state of mindless samadhi. And in fact, you can't maintain it. Of course you can't, right? Because awakening is not a self-realization, is not a state. It's the realization. Oh, it's not a state at all. Am I any different? If thought is present or thought is not present, is the awareness of those any different? That's you. That's the real you. Yes, about meat and alike. Great. Super Francois. Hi, Lauren. Danke verde char. I don't know what that means. Diane, aging. I am 79 in July, and yes, I am not as articulate as I was, but I notice and don't really mind. Beautiful. I feel so deep down happy and content. You touch on so much I see as true. Well, that's the whole point. The whole point of getting old is to let go. I was with my son the other day, and he's got my granddaughter's 4.5, and he's now expecting I'm going to have another granddaughter. Just about the time my other granddaughter turns 5. And he says, Dad, being a parent is all about letting go. And I said, yeah. And guess what? It doesn't get any different later. People want to hold on to what you can't hold on. The whole point of this is to prepare you to completely let go. Because it's all permanent. All is impermanent. All is without a self. All is impermanent. All is without a self. And the impermanent is what you completely embrace. And then you find that which actually is permanent. But that's not a thing. That's the real you. What isn't you will fade away. It will. Of course it's going to. Because it's not you. So it's the kind of thing you embrace. Right? We just live in a very sick culture, which does not understand the value of aging, because it's only interested in marketable skills. There's no concept of wisdom. Right? It's not interested in any of that. So, wonderful, Diane, wonderful. Hello, Amy. Always love the reminders of truth you give us. Hi from Vancouver. Hello, Amy, good to see you. So beautiful, your backdrop, all that luscious green, says Facebook. Isn't it wonderful? Yeah. The apartment I have has got this little atrium right out back. That's why I chose this particular one. It's a small apartment, but this thing is, I could sit here and watch it. And it makes a great backdrop for these videos. Oh, look at this, my ugly napkin and my beautiful set I had up here. And I think it's still... Oh, it's not raining. I'll be able to walk later. Good. So, yeah, it is a lovely, lovely place. Creative Revolution. Hey, Susanna, I recognize that. Oh, I owe you a call, don't I, about doing your show. Faith, I love you, Baba GP. Pray for me. Of course. Scott, hello from Italy. Hello, Scott. Ido, hello, G. Hello to you. Thank you so much, G, for the thoughtless state. Very helpful as always. Much thanks again. You're very welcome. Thank you so much, G, for the explanation on the thoughtless state. Yes, it's very important. It's very important because that we can start then seeking something that you can't actually have because it's impermanent. If the thoughtless state was it would be permanent. But it isn't. It's going back. Matter of fact, you can't even talk about thoughtlessness except in terms of thoughts, can you? Right? You can't say thoughtless state without invoking thought. The two happen at once. That which is aware of both is beyond all categorization. It cannot be spoken. It is the Tao that cannot be spoken. Jay, thank you, G. Another beautiful satsang. You're always needed until you aren't here physically. You guys are so sweet. Look at that. I got through all the questions. And it's even before 2 hours. So I'll just kind of bring it to a close. The goal of satsang, which is the goal of meditation, the goal of self-inquiry, really, it's actually the goal of all person developments, everything we try to do to improve ourselves, is to discover our actual true nature. But our true nature is so subtle. Because it's unchanging, right? It's always been the same. It isn't noticed. See, if it was something that came and went, if your true nature was something that came and went, it couldn't be your true nature. It would be your nature for a moment, and then you'd be something else later, and then you'd be something else later, right? Then that couldn't be your true. The true nature is self-existent and permanent, right? But it's not the permanence as we like to see. There's no such thing as a permanent form. There's no such thing as a permanent self. It is the selfless self. It is the self that is no self. It is, but I don't want to sound so abstract. It is the simple fact of your existence and your awareness of your existence. Please just take that in. Meditation is consciousness meditating on consciousness, on itself. Because isn't it consciousness that meditates? You say, I am meditating, right? But I mean, without consciousness, is there such a thing as meditation? So what is the focal point of the meditation? The meditation that I teach, the focal point is consciousness itself. It is the place where you are meditating on your own nature. Consciousness meditating on consciousness. Nisargadatta called that Mahayoga, right? The great union, right? Where the meditator and the object of meditation become one. Where the devotee and the object of its devotion become one. Where the lover and the object of that love become one. Where the human and God become one. The great union. To simply meditate on the self-evident truth that you are conscious. I am aware. Aware of being aware. It's all you need to do. And the sense of somebody meditating on awareness will eventually dissolve until it's just awareness, aware of awareness, in awareness. I think I'll let it go for now. Wow. Hopefully you've all just kind of absorbed so much that the questions have all just kind of gone into quietude, and you can just kind of be with yourself. Aware of being aware, conscious of being conscious, Sat-Chit, and the utter stillness or contentment that brings. Thank you all. Namaste.